but I remember the preparation as much as anything, and then the excitement in the air. You know, it was a big-time game, and it was on ESPN at that time. It wasn't a lot of games on TV at night. So from that standpoint, I remember those things more than anything.
I remember it was really physical, and the crowd was just unbelievable that day. Coach Jones, I have nothing against the guy, but you know, you always try to read clips before the week to motivate you. I just remember those guys and those coaches over there saying, you know, Mike's, you know, he's okay. He's not Thurman, he's not Barry. I just remember that.
Coach was more into preparation during the week in practice, and he was the same all the time. He was always in a bad mood, and he was always on us as players to compete and play at a high level. And so I don't really know him being any different that week than he would be any other week.
But I had heard and I've seen highlights of him. So that game, you know, I made a special point to actually watch OSU's offense so I could see this guy. And he was as good as advertised. Man, you know, up to that point, I was like, well, he can't be that special. But after that game, I was like, this guy is really nice.
But as the season went on in '88, when he continued to roll up big numbers and score that many touchdowns, about halfway through, we realized that he was going to win the Heisman Trophy. We played against a defense that, if you go back then, there wasn't as much coverage as there is now, but their defense was as good as there was in the country. They had several guys that played in the NFL that were playing on that defense, and you know, he rushed for 220-something yards and made a lot of players miss in space. And I think that once the country saw him do that on ESPN, because there wasn't as much coverage then, I think that kind of settled it for everybody and realized that he is the best player in the country.
Well, I remember when we first started out, man, we were just blowing by him. Everything was clicking. First half, we were getting huge chunks of yards, and second half, like the mojo turned, and Oklahoma State got it, and we started turning the ball over. We were getting 3 and outs, and just couldn't move the ball, couldn't do anything. OSU took the lead in the fourth quarter, and I don't think we had really done anything in the second half, and then we had about 6 or 7 minutes left to score. And I think we went on about a 70, 80-yard drive. We ran a couple of options. I believe I fumbled on the last drive on a screen pass, and then fortunately we recovered it. And I think the next play or two, that's when Charles, you know, went around the left side on option and scored.
Well, the critical turning point was a personal foul they called on the sideline. I mean, that's not a call that you make in a game like that, unless it's something that's really vicious that deserves a flag. You don't make that call. And obviously we're going to have 4th and 1, and we end up 4th and 16, and that's when the pass happened. But I don't think there's anybody that would tell you today in officiating or as a fan that's not a call that's made. And, you know, that's not something that's been kept a secret. That's just a fact. And it was dash right, and we were trying to throw the ball that was going to go to Hartley Dykes, and then 3 of their defenders jumped on him, and they turned Brent loose going right down the middle of the field. I mean, Brent's a very level-headed guy and a very intelligent person. He understands that the team knows that he did everything he could. I mean, it's not like he tried to drop the pass. It's a very unfortunate situation for him, and he just dropped it. Sometimes that happens in athletics, but Brent's always been okay with that, and the people here at Oklahoma State have always accepted that. Well, I think any loss is always difficult to handle as a team. When we had had as much success as we'd had in, you know, the last 4 or 5 years at Oklahoma State, you know, we'd won 10 and 9 and then 6 and then back to 10 and 10. Those teams want to win every game.
something extra if I could do that.
You had a lot extra for them. But going into that game, it's an early November game. You know, now the game's played at Thanksgiving, but it was an early November game in '88. How much aware were you of what Barry Sanders was doing at that point?
Well, at that point, I had heard of, but I really hadn't focused on him very much because I just came off my redshirt year, so it was really my first year actually playing, being an active part of the program. But I had heard and I've seen highlights of him. So that game, you know, I made a special point to actually watch OSU's offense so I could see this guy. And he was as good as advertised, man. Up to that point, I was like, well, he can't be that special. But after that game, I was like, this guy is really nice.
Well, and sort of taking that, being able to watch the offense, at the end of the game, after you had this unbelievable game with all, you know, in some ways a little bit of a coming out party for you from a college football standpoint, but you're a little helpless because there you are on the bench. What was that like?
Well, that was tough because those guys, you know, Gundy and Sanders and Dykes, I mean, they've got the firepower, and they were just moving the ball. And then, you know, we all know that they had an opportunity to win that game, and a lot of people say they should have. Still to this day, I don't know if our guy actually tipped the ball.
You don't. He says he did.
He says he did, but I don't know if he did or if he did. I know he was beat, though. He let the guy get behind him, our free safety, so it was fortunate for OU that the guy didn't catch the ball.
That was a sort of fits and starts offensively for OU. There was a bunch of fumbles.
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember sort of about OU's offensive struggles from that game?
Well, I remember when we first started out, man, we were just blowing by him. Everything was clicking first half. We were getting huge chunks of yards. And second half, like the mojo turned, and Oklahoma State got it. And we started turning the ball over. We were getting 3 and outs and just couldn't move the ball, couldn't do anything. And I remember OSU took the lead in the fourth quarter, and I don't think we had really done anything in the second half. And then we had about 6 or 7 minutes left to score. And I think we went on about a 70, 80-yard drive. We ran a couple of options. I believe I fumbled on the last drive on a screen pass, and then fortunately we recovered it. And I think the next play or two, that's when Charles, you know, went around the left side on option and scored.
There's a great picture in our archives of you on a run down the left sideline with running back coach Mike Jones watching it. But what play, is there any specific play? I mean, as we said, that's sort of a coming out party for you. Any specific play that you remember about that game?
Well, I remember I took a little trap play up the middle, right up, I think it was first quarter, maybe second drive or so. I took that right up the middle, about 50, 60 yards. And old Melvin Gilliam, I think his last name was, I think he was trying to run me down. I had a high step on him. I think I remember that play. And then I remember I took an option around the left side. That might have been the same quarter as well. But I didn't score that time. I just remember it was about a 50, 60-yard run. And one of OSU's guys just blasted me at the end of the run. And I was just dizzy, seeing stars. And I remember laying on the ground, and then my teammate, I think Leon Berry, came and picked me up, and I was still a little wounded. I really wasn't ready to get up yet. Then I stumbled back to the huddle, and I was all right after that. But, yeah, I remember it was really physical, and the crowd was just unbelievable that day.
Now, the controversial play where Garrett Limbrick gets the personal foul call, 15 yards, the referee had warned, or the line judge had warned him several times, calm down. That's on the Sooner sideline where it happened. Were you anywhere near it?
No, I didn't actually see that one. I actually missed that play, but I didn't actually see what happened on that one. But
that's the 15-yard right before.
Yeah, I remember that play. I remember that play because we took them back 15, didn't we? Yeah,
that's right.
I remember the play, but I didn't actually see what had happened. But probably fortunate for us.
Yeah, that was a big play in the game. That put them into a really long yardage situation. As you look back at your career, you got 213 yards that day. Barry Sanders gets 215. But the next year, and a lot of people remember you for the Bedlam '88 performance, but it's the next year that you got 274 on them, and then 203. And so that's why every year at Bedlam time, people start asking to Mike Gaddis.
Yeah.
Are there any other specific memories you have about why were you so successful against OSU?
Well, I just remember, and Coach Jones, I have nothing against the guy, but you always try to read clips before the week to motivate you. I just remember those guys and those coaches over there saying, Mike's, he's okay. He's not Thurman, he's not Barry. I just remember that. And I was like, you know what? I got something for you guys. I'm going to show you. Because I remember those guys coming up to my high school, calling my mom, begging me to take a trip down, just a recruiting trip. I remember that.
You didn't go.
I didn't even take a trip down there. I remember those times. And I thought it was kind of funny that, when I'm wearing the other color on the other side of the state, they don't want to give me any respect. But so I always felt like I had to show them a little something.
Do you, as you look back at your career, I mean, a devastating knee injury, and it looked like Heisman Trophy and all those things. Mm-hmm. You're looking back at the Bedlam game, it's sort of, you're going to show your kids and say, no, that's what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I can get some film of those games because I got two young. I got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I know they don't know Daddy used to play. My oldest one's starting to realize that I used to play a little bit because his uncles were telling him, and everybody at his school tells him, or the teachers anyway, because they remember. But I think I may pull something out and show them when they get a little older.
Do you go to the games now, or will you be in Stillwater on a week from Saturday?
Well, I hadn't went in a while. I had gotten sick, so I kind of had not been going to games. But I do plan on going again once my son gets a little older and he can enjoy it. Saturday nights and Saturdays in Norman, they're fun, but it could be a little hassle sometimes.
Especially when you got little ones.
Yeah, when you got little ones. So when he's at the age where he can actually sit through a full game, yeah, we're definitely going to be going back and forth.
Now, you mentioned friends on the other sidelines, and William Woods went up there and played basketball. Yeah. Was there anybody on the football team that had any Carl Albert connections?
No Carl Albert connection, but Brandon went to El Reno. I can't remember this guy's name.
You know what?
He had some brothers.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that guy.
He went to El Reno. We took a recruiting trip together where we went to Norman together. And Brandon had told me that he was going to commit to to OU that day. And he ended up going to Stillwater. So it was always fun to see him at that game. He played, nose tackle, so we met a lot. And plus, we played together against each other in high school because he went to El Reno and I went to Carl Albert, so we saw each other a lot.
Now, Mike, as far as your best highlights or the things you most remember, where do the Bedlam games rank? Your personal favorite games in the Sooner uniform. Where do those?
My favorite games, I think they're right up. They're near the top. I believe that the OU Texas game was always special, and that sticks out in my mind because there was good and bad times for me personally in that game. And Bedlam, Nebraska, the bowl games, but Bedlam's right up there near the top.
That 213, you're matching the Heisman Trophy winner. And as you talked about